Hi there. Okay, so I'm one of the chair people for Scotland, for the UK, and this is kind of an impromptu talk that I've just been asked to do last minute, so I will do my best. And yeah, I'll just tell you a bit about my story. So most things that I do revolve around the power of vulnerability. So I'd like to ask you a question. Do you think that vulnerability is a strength or a weakness? Because depending on what you think that is, will be your truth. So vulnerability for me is about being you, the authentic, real you, the person that other people will connect to, the person that people will learn to trust, and the person that will have people coming to them because they know that they have a real, authentic person right there. So I believe that vulnerability means that you love with your whole heart, that you take risks in your life, that you may be in a job or a situation where you feel that you want to do more, and that gives you, by being vulnerable, that allows you to do that. Travel, to be able to do things, to go away on your own, to experience new experiences. All of these things require you to be vulnerable. So what's the alternative? So for some people, the alternative is fine. It's staying in your bubble, it's being safe, and it's going along with life okay. Everything's fine. You know, that word that you hear a lot. Everything's just ticking along, and that's okay. You do your 9 to 5 job, you come home, you have your dinner, you watch a bit of TV, you go to bed, you wake up the next day, and you do it all again. And if that's your life and that's what you want, then great. But what if you want more? If you want more from your life, then you have to learn to embrace vulnerability. Is vulnerability something that's easy? Absolutely not. Vulnerability brings fear. It brings the thought of being rejected, heartbroken, hurt. You know, there's so many things that you can happen when you're vulnerable. But when you decide that you're going to be vulnerable and you're going to be you, something happens and it builds your confidence. People see you in a different way. And the more that you're vulnerable, you find the more confident you get. With that confidence, you create boundaries. And those boundaries are the way that people can see what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. You both have the path, you both know that you can take something so far, but you reduce your chance of being hurt and rejected so much. You have so much more belief in yourself the more confident you get. So I'll just give an example. I've had many, many moments in my life where I have had to learn, sometimes the hard way, about vulnerability. My first time was when I was 11 years old. And I was at school one day and I couldn't hardly move. I was in so much pain. I didn't know what was going on. Through some tests and going to the hospital, I found out that I had a debilitating disease in my back, and my life kind of turned upside down. I was homeschooled. I lost touch with so many people. My mum had to give up her job. And, you know, my life was very, very different from that point on. And being completely honest, I'll never be the person that I was before that. I'm never going to be that person again. But I have a strength and I have so much life experience now that I embrace the person that I am. So when all this happened, I ended up, I would have to take like months out of school, to be homeschooled, to go through excruciating painful treatment every time that I grew. This led to horrendous bullying because I wasn't accepted. I wasn't the same as everybody else. I was different. The way that people thought was that I thought myself better than other people. I didn't. I was just very, very shy, and I didn't know how to really form these relationships because I was in and out of school all the time. And my life wasn't my own. So I was just really waiting on the next time that I was going to be ill. So the bullying became so horrendous that I left the school and I had a nervous breakdown at 14 years old. My mum found me in the bathroom with a knife one day, and I was in that fight or flight mode where in one way I had so much anxiety that in one way I wanted to be in the bathroom in a ball curled up and nobody to see me, and in another way I wanted to fly. I wanted to get away from everybody. So I was just stuck, and I was in this horrendous situation of feeling like my insides were screaming at me. I ended up having to get a psychiatrist, a psychologist to help me through this situation. And I became better. I improved. And then it came the time when I had to think about my education again and going back to school. Now, I wasn't going to go back to the school that I was bullied at because that had become a completely toxic environment. So my first real experience of having to be vulnerable was moving to a whole new school, of starting again, of being that new girl, that person that nobody knew but everybody wanted to know about. And mainly my life from that moment has been a whole host of moments like that. So from what happened to me as a child with having a disease in my back, I experienced trauma and I ended up with fibromyalgia and ME. And all my life, it's kind of been where I've not quite been accepted. My life's always been a bit different. I've always had to do things differently from other people. Never really understanding why when I was a child. But obviously now I do understand that a lot of my thoughts, a lot of the things that went through my body at the time manifested into the disease that ended up being my reality. So I got to a point where my life was an existence of taking 35 pills a day. I was on morphine. I often didn't know the day of the week. I couldn't get from my bedroom to the bathroom on my own because I was in so much pain. And one day, these carers came into my house and talked about putting a commode in my bedroom. I was in my 20s and I was like, this cannot be my life. This cannot be it. So, excuse me. So I made a decision that day that I was going to change my life. A couple of years previous to that, I had found out that the sun made a huge difference to my health. So I went to Honduras in Central America and I volunteered teaching English, and I turned my life around through being in the sun, through the reality of being around these people, through the community, and also through my sheer determination that I was never going back to that dark, dark place that I had been in before. Now, I still have a chronic illness. I've travelled, I became a teacher, I've done so much with my life. The sun still makes a huge difference, and right now I'm back in Scotland and it is difficult because it's cold. But my goal is to live in Portugal, to get back out there and to continue my coaching and everything like that. But I've got something like steel in my core now that means that I will never give up. So whatever challenges come towards me, I always think my why is bigger than my fear. And as long as my why is bigger than my fear, I can do anything. So I ask you again, is vulnerability a strength or is it a weakness? Because for me, I think to be vulnerable, to put yourself out there, to show the real you, that takes courage. You can be the same as everybody else, or you can choose to stand up and be exactly who you are. You are you, unique, perfectly imperfect, and exactly as you should be. Never hide that. Always be you, and always live your life on your terms. So now I help other women how to live their life their way, how to see that their purpose matters. And I help women who feel stuck and alone on how to get what they want moving forward, whether that's in a relationship or it's in their career or whatever it is. I help women to look in the mirror and say, I bloody love this person that I can see in the mirror. I am completely at peace with who I am, and I can be and have anything that I want in my life. And that's my story.